Before we understand how software is built, let me ask you a question. If a company wants to build an application like a banking app or e-commerce app, can developers just start coding immediately? No, there's need to be structured process, otherwise the project will fail. That structured process is called SDLC, Software Development Lifecycle. SDLC ensures that software is developed in a systematic way with proper planning, validation, and continuous improvement. In this section, we are not just learning theory, we are understanding how real world projects are executed. Let's go step by step through the SDLC lifecycle. Think of this like building a house. First, planning. Before construction start, we decide what we are building, budget, timeline, resources, etc. Similarly, in software, planning defines project scope and goals. Next is analysis. This is where business analysts play a key role. They interact with stakeholders and gather requirements. For example, what features should the app have? What problems are we solving? If this step goes wrong, the entire project fails. Then comes design. Here, architect and designer create the system blueprint. They decide system architecture, database design, technology stack. Next is implementation, where developers convert design into a code. This is where actual development happen. Then comes testing, where a QA team validates whether the system meets requirement, they identify bugs and ensure quality. After that deployment, the application is released to user. And finally, maintenance. Even after release, work continues. There is bug fixes, enhancement and updates happen. So SDLC is not a one-time activity, it is a continuous life cycle. Now let's understand two major approaches used in SDLC, Waterfall and Agile. First, Waterfall. This is a traditional approach. Work happens step by step, that is planning, analysis, design, development, testing, and deployment. You cannot move to the next phase unless the previous one is completed because requirements are fixed at the beginning. So this model works best when requirements are clear, changes are minimal. But the problem is it is not flexible. And now let's look at Agile. Agile is a modern approach. Instead of doing everything at once, work is divided into small cycles called sprints. Each sprint delivers a working part of the product, and here's the key difference. Requirement can change, feedback is continuous, testing happens throughout. So waterfall is structured but rigid. Agile is flexible but dynamic. Waterfall follows a step-by-step approach where each phase is completed before moving to the next. First is requirement. In this phase, business analysts gather and document requirement. BRD explain business needs and FRD define system functionality. This phase is critical because everything depends on these requirements. Then comes design. In the design phase, the technical team creates the system blueprints. Document like software design specification define how the system will be built and how components will interact. Next is implementation. Here, developers start coding based on the design. They build the application according to the defined requirements and architecture. Testing. In this phase, the QA team tests the application. They use test plan and test cases to ensure the system works correctly and meet requirements. Then comes deployment. Once testing is complete, the application is released to production. User can now access and use the system. And maintenance. After deployment, ongoing support is provided. Bugs are fixed and new changes are handled through change request. So waterfall is a structure and control approach, but it is less flexible when requirement changes. Now let's understand agile methodology in detail because this is what most companies use today. Unlike waterfall, agile is not linear. It is iterative, meaning work happens in small cycles called sprints. What is sprint? A sprint is a short development cycle, usually 2 to 4 weeks. In each sprint, the team plans, build, test and deliver a small part of the product. So instead of waiting months for a full product, you get working features step by step. Now let's see what happens inside a sprint. First, sprint planning. The team select tasks from the backlog and decides what to deliver. Next, design and development, where developers start building the selected features. Then testing. Testing happens continuously within the sprint, not at the end. After that, sprint review. Stakeholders check the work and give feedback. Finally, retrospective. The team discusses what went well and what can be improved. Then the next sprint start. Now let's understand important agile documents, that is product backlog. This is a master list of all features, changes and fixes. Then user stories. These describe requirements from the user's perspective. Example, as a user I want to log in securely. And next comes sprint backlog. This contains tasks selected for the current sprint. Then sprint review notes, feedback collected after the sprint. These documents help manage and track work effectively. So Agile focuses on continuous delivery, feedback based improvement, collaboration between teams. Now let's understand some important Agile concept. These are very important for interviews and real projects. First is iterations or sprints. Iterations, also called sprints, are short development cycles. Each sprint includes planning, development, testing, and review. At the end of each sprint, a working feature is delivered. Second, increments. Increments are the output of each sprint. Each sprint adds a small working part to the product, so the product grows step by step instead of building everything at once. Third is velocity. Velocity measures how much work a team completes in one sprint. It is usually measured using story points. For example, if a team completes 30 points in one sprint, they can plan future sprints based on that. So, velocity helps in better planning and predictions. Fourth is spiral model. Spiral model is a hybrid approach. It combines iterative development with risk analysis. So, each cycle focuses on identifying and reducing risk. It is mainly used in complex and high risk projects. So overall, Agile focuses on small iterations, continuous delivery, better planning using velocity, risk handling through iterative models.